I entered my PhD program for the same reason I think that most people start PhDs. I loved the world of ideas. I wanted to develop my own ideas and I wanted to have an impact with those ideas. But after a couple of years of being in the PhD program, I became really frustrated. I realized that academia wasn't set up in a way that was going to result in me having any impact with my ideas. In academia, you build your academic career by publishing in peer-reviewed journals. The problem that I found with this was that I was working as hard as I could, developing my ideas based on the motivation to have impact with those ideas, and then these ideas were being published inside journals without any public access. If anyone outside my academic circles wanted to read these ideas, and in my case, I wanted them to benefit from those ideas, they needed to pay exorbitant fees just to access specific papers. And because we were trying to publish in these academic journals, we were being taught and conditioned to write in a really complex way that was really difficult to understand. The other thing I realized was that the unemployment rate for PhD graduates was really high. It's one of the highest unemployment rates out of any profession in the world, at least for my particular PhD. I came to the conclusion at that time that the path I was on with the PhD, even if I was successful at it, wasn't going to bring me to the place that would have served that original motivation for getting started in the PhD program in the first place. It was a really difficult decision to make. I was about halfway through the PhD and I had a fully funded scholarship to do it. I felt like I was really invested in this pathway. And I felt really bad because I should have known these things going into the PhD. I felt like it wasn't a good enough excuse to come to these realizations in the process of doing the PhD. Even now, this is a hard video to share because I feel like the path that I was on was impacting a lot of people, and I also feel like a lot of people will judge the path that I've taken. But I'm walking along this beautiful trail in Thailand to the Khao Nong Nak viewpoint. I'm sure that I've pronounced that incorrectly. And I was just thinking about the walk as a metaphor for these life decisions that we make. In my case, being on this path was like being on the PhD program, where you've got the promised viewpoint at the end. And in the case of this particular walk, it's just one of the most spectacular views. It's these limestone cliffs just shooting out of the earth. And you walk along this forest trail, which is really covered by the trees, and you can't see so much, but you know you've got this promised vision, this promised viewpoint at the end. And as I was walking along, I realized that with my PhD program, as I was fighting my way through the PhD, which is like fighting your way through the trail, I realized that that promised viewpoint just didn't exist. The motivations that I had, what I thought it was all going to arrive at, it just wasn't going to eventuate in my place. So I had to get off that path. So now a key question I'm often asked is, do I regret quitting the PhD? And to answer this question, I need to reflect upon what was really going on during that time in my life. Because I'd become addicted to grand theorizing about the world. I had started to get lost in this world of ideas, and I'd become disengaged from that original motivation that I had deep down. I'd always been so passionate about grassroots change in society. My PhD was in international politics, so I saw that as a vehicle to get involved in these kinds of things, but the environment just wasn't right for me. It's hard to generalize about other people, but I had this feeling that a lot of the other people around me were a little bit lost, just like I was, because we'd all entered into these PhD programs for this motivation to have an impact with our ideas. I felt like we were all stuck in a structure where our ideas weren't able to be channeled effectively so that they could have an impact. And frustration was really building up, but all of our own level of awareness was different about this matter. And even now, as time has passed, it's so much easier to look back and reflect and to pull out these different themes and trends that were going on. At the time, it was just this deeper sense of frustration. So I made the decision to quit. It was really scary to do. Firstly, I loved the status that came with doing a PhD, meeting people, telling them what I did. I enjoyed talking about the ideas that I had. So I knew that I was giving up a lot by letting that go. The other thing I was scared of was, what if I'm wrong? What if having a PhD was the best path to having an impact with my ideas? What if there was a path of becoming a public intellectual or shifting from the PhD into business where you need these credentials? And finally, I was dependent on the income that came from my scholarship. It was enough to live on. It was getting me by, and giving that up was really challenging at that time. It brought a lot of fear. So now, looking back, do I regret quitting the PhD? And the answer is that I don't regret quitting it, but I wish that I had have quit the PhD earlier, or even have had this awareness to not start it in the first place. But the thing is, I don't think that we should live in regret. Rather, we need to accept that life is difficult. We have a lot of decisions to make along the way, and the paths that we're on, they're never going to be perfect, but there are some things that I feel like I can take away from what happened here. The first takeaway for me is that in my life, there are many times when I've become lost in pursuit of the vision at the end of a journey, as opposed to really connecting with what's happening here and now. Having said that, I'm pretty glad I pushed myself to get to the viewpoint at the top here. Secondly, it's okay to start small. In my case, I was getting really lost in this world of ideas, of thinking that because I'm talking about the injustices of the world and coming up with these ideas, that I was having an impact. But I think that we get lost in that pretty easily, and having an impact happens every day with the decisions we make, with what we purchase, with what we're part of, with what we contribute to, with how we support each other in having small impacts. And I love Howard Zinn's quote. I can't remember it exactly, but it's all about 1,000,000 small acts are what changes the world. So in my case with the PhD, it was all about that top-down theorizing, trying to figure out that grand new vision for the world and trying to create some sort of change from that place. And I think that that was all very misplaced. And finally, I think it's okay to change course in life. It feels really daunting to have done what I did. At the time, it was really difficult to shift course and to move myself in this new direction. It took a lot of time. But ultimately, I used that moment to get myself on a better path, and I'm much more fulfilled by living my life in this way. This passion that I felt to develop ideas, to have an impact, to create change, I knew that the passion was burning within me, but it was dying within me as well. I knew that this path that I was on wasn't allowing me to light that flame and to breathe it out into the world. Of course, if you're thinking of doing a PhD or doing a PhD and feeling frustrated, everyone's situation is different. Everyone's PhD program and knowledge and goals are different than mine. So it could be that this is the best path to be on. We've all got to make our own decisions, and we've all got to take responsibility for those decisions. So that's what I did at that time and continue to do it to the best of my ability. I made it to the bottom. Oh, that was a really challenging walk. I was out there for about 3.5 hours. As for what life brings me now, I'm running a number of digital publishing and e-commerce companies. They create passive income, but I don't want to sell the dream that passive income means not doing much work, because it's a huge amount of work to build the system. And when you love what you do, you just keep on trying to do more and grow more and everything like that. Everything covers spirituality, self-development, relationships, dating advice, all of these kinds of topics. Ironically, I'm reaching a lot more people now with millions of readers across these websites than I can imagine I would have done by doing a PhD and becoming an academic. Also, we've got online courses on the Vessel that are having a deep impact on people's lives. They're all in the personal development space. So I'm really happy with the path that I've taken, but it's been really challenging to get there. There's been a lot of small steps along the way. Moving forward, I'm becoming really interested in land projects, in learning about agricultural systems, in what they do to the land, how we can do agriculture much better, deforestation around the world, and just different projects that we can work on together to have a more positive impact on the environment, so that we as humans can live in more harmony and balance, connected with these ecosystems around us. So subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about these kinds of things. I've decided to share a bit more about my life and my broader interests on this YouTube channel. I'm using it to share my passions and just documenting what I'm learning along the way. So do subscribe if you're interested. Leave a comment below in what you want to learn about or me to share, and just your own reactions to these videos. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.